Greetings and welcome to the Victoria Electric Vehicle Association on YouTube. Our association is a volunteer-led group working pro bono to accelerate the shift to a renewable energy future. Starting with electric vehicles and solar power generation, VicEVA is working with the public and advocating to government on behalf of our members in the greater EV and solar community. Please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Victoria EV Association, for more on the biggest energy and transportation shift since humanity got off the horse. Here we are, Victoria Electric Vehicle Association, doing a Wednesday night talk with Julian Sale, owner of Motorized EVs up in Sydney. How are you, Julian?
I'm very well, thank you. I'm not distracted. I'm fully at attention here and just cutting some vegetables. I'm multitasking.
That's right. We could see a finger being lost while we're doing all this. So have that.
No
Keep
blood,
on the edge
hopefully.
of your
Yeah.
seats, everyone.
Yeah.
So yeah, what was happening a week or so ago? We were having a coffee, and Julian had some insights that I thought should be shared with the rest of our audience out there. So yeah, Julian, let's talk about what's happening. Maybe first up, more directly, uh, in the used market for EVs right now.
Well, thanks for asking and thanks for having me. I'm delighted to have a conversation about this because it's a something that is dear to my heart. Hey, sorry, we got house cleaning equipment going on in this kitchen. We're doing some production stuff here. Thing is, I grew in the electric vehicle market quite a lot between 2014 and 2019. And at the time, it was the first availability of American imports for EVs that were affordable to people in the sub $30,000 range. Because at that time, you really didn't have a lot of choices. 75 grand for a new i3, maybe 70 to $100,000 for a Tesla, and then you had the Leaf, which still came in the high 40s. But when the used Leaf hit the market, it became an affordable alternative for a lot of first-time EV owners who just weren't comfortable laying out, a lot of money for a new car. So what happened is the used market saw a boom, but all of those original cars that entered the used market in big numbers, in sufficient quantities to really make a difference in BC, in terms of moving EVs onto the roads. These were all small battery vehicles. Now, the bulk of these used EVs that were sold through Autoway and Motorize and Campus Nissan and a number of different retailers that were really pumping the EVs hard, these things have now been in people's driveways for quite some time, maybe up to 10 years in some cases. And interestingly, that first boom was really, really busy for the entire electric vehicle segment. It made EVs affordable for everybody as the used entry into the market. I knew when the first Model 3s rolled around in 2019 and they started to get delivered in big numbers, I thought, well, this is going to be amazing. Maybe come 2022 when we can get our first hands on used Model 3s because they will be available in numbers greater than we've seen before. And so, sure enough, the used Model 3 market exploded, but those cars were still in the $50,000 range, still kind of a lot of money for a used car at the time. Right now, what we've got happening is a lot of cars that are coming back off lease, or maybe that cars that are getting traded in at Tesla or Rivian and whatnot, they're actually coming on the market with 50 kilowatt hour batteries in the $29,000 retail price point, which is where Leafs first hit the used market. So all of a sudden, we've got cars that are sub $30,000 that have the long range that would have been the dream of the original EV adopters. So Glenn, this puts long range, high quality, potentially self-driving EVs for $30,000 in the reach of the average BC citizen, or potentially way less. You can even get, in the $20,000 range, a 40 kilowatt hour Leaf, which is good for 240 kilometers. It's tremendous. Is that an answer to your question?
Well, no, that's just it. I mean, I remember getting a 3-year-old Leaf off you and 20 in 2016, and that was kind of a mid 25 k sort of car, and yeah, I never saw any more than 130k on that. But I
That's all you
mean,
needed at the time, though, I'm sure,
oh
right?
yeah,
If you have a longer
yeah,
range EV, then you can potentially replace an internal combustion vehicle by going up to a car with longer range.
yep.
So it's a natural progression for sure, right?
Well, let's talk about the knock-on effects. What are you seeing in the new market? The people you know there.
Well, I think EVs are sitting around a little bit right now. I think a lot of cars are sitting around right now in general and spending a little bit more time on the dealer's lots than than people would prefer. I think interest rates maybe are coming down a little bit, or should come down a little bit. The average Canadian car loan right now on a used car is still in the 8.5% range, which is a little expensive. So that's kind of stifling purchases in a lot of ways, I think. But yeah, I don't know. The tariffs have really slowed things down. So I think new car sales are going to be a little bit sleepy. They'll kind of crawl along at a snail's pace for a little while. Maybe once the tariff things are resolved, we'll see lower prices across the board from all the North American manufactured stuff. But right now, the used market seems pretty hot because the few EV deliveries that are happening on new car dealers' lots are generating EV trades, which Motorize loves to buy. But yeah, the market is cruising along. I think things are about to get cheaper. I think AI and tools and technology and design is going to push the price of cars down, and I think that you're going to see Chinese cars on our roads in the not too far distant future. And I think that what that's going to do is it's going to push the cost of driving down for the average person. And then when you couple that with the autonomous driving that is coming online, not only from Tesla but others, that the entire cost of transportation is going to go down like crazy in the coming while, whether people are choosing to subscribe to the use of a car or purchase a car outright. It's all going to get cheaper. So that's like my long-term prediction.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I mean, even we're seeing right now, let's talk about new Teslas at the moment. Model 3 that's been built in North America because of tariffs and counter tariffs, that's, coming in at somewhere close to 80 grand. And yet you can get a Model Y built in Germany, delivered for 67, which is amazing because my almost 4-year-old Model Y cost me 69 4 years ago. just on inflation alone, that should probably cost something closer to 80 grand on its own. So yeah, it's pretty amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, I think a lot of new car manufacturers right now don't actually have anything to sell because their businesses were fed by units that were produced in the United States that were shipped up into Canada, whether these were from domestic or partners that were from perhaps Korea or Japan or whatever, and these units are now getting manufactured in the States, but they're tariffed at 25%. And in an arena where all the cars should be getting cheaper because manufacturing and technology is making it cheaper, all of a sudden the consumer sees the price go up because of these tariffs, and they just think, you know what, I actually don't need a new car that bad. I know that if I buy a car today, I'm going to pay an extra 25% on an American or domestic built unit. I don't need it bad enough to have to pay the extra 25%. I'm going to sit it out. I'm going to wait. And my other car will last me a few more years until the pricing cools down. So maybe I'll get one later. So it puts dealers and manufacturers in a tough spot because the product just got more expensive, but it didn't get better. So the manufacturing hopefully will come back to Canada so we can produce some more stuff locally, like Honda CR-V and Toyota RAV4 are pretty much produced in Canada, so they still get sold here. But there's a lot of electric vehicles that should be coming here and should be super competitively priced, and they're not going to be competitively priced because they're tariffed because they're built in the States. And the whole reason that these South Korean manufacturers built assembly plants in the States is because they wanted to avoid the 6.1% tariff that they would be inflicted with if they were coming in from South Korea. So they built plates in the States, and now these things are tariffed going into Canada. So they just kind of lost the Canadian market. It's tough, right? And then you got Tesla producing stuff for less money than everybody else can, and Tesla's making a profit, and the other guys are still losing.
And a lot of self-inflicted wounds, because of politics.
I heard a podcast the other day, and I think it was Jervison from Google was talking, and he said that he had sat in on a meeting with the leadership of Toyota, and this would have been like probably 2012 era. And they had a discussion about electric vehicles, and they were talking about Toyota's EV platform, which was considerable at the time, but unproduced. But they had certainly plenty of stuff lined up. And the leadership at Toyota told them at the time that they didn't want to go against Tesla because they would not be able to beat Tesla. And the reason for that was that when Musk has a conversation with his engineering staff, he gets to talk directly with the staff that matter the most and that have the opinions that need to be shared. Everybody has a voice in there. And he can have one-on-one or one-on-10 meetings with his engineers. And at Toyota, because the organization was so big and their structure is so rigid, the top brass at Toyota, when they have a meeting, the smallest meeting they could get into was with 100 members. And some of the people who were most influential in the engineering side and everything, who should have been heard, they had too much pride to speak up. And so the delay from the management choosing to go a certain path to having the engineering team execute those changes is too long, because the top talent does not have access to the leadership. And they said for that reason, well, they didn't say it at the time, but a couple of days later, they went all in on hydrogen and walked away from electric, because had they competed in electric, they would have finished number 2, and that would have been insulting to the Japanese. So they said, listen, we're going to go in this totally other direction. Everybody else can fight to be number 2. And so here we are all these years later, and everybody is fighting for number 2. And number 2 is a great place to be. And maybe there'll be challenges for number 1, but
Yeah, still lots of money to be made at number 2.
well,
It's also
everybody's going to go electric, so it's a big market, right?
yeah, it's also interesting that Toyota wasn't going on complete ignorance, because they'd had Tesla provide Toyota with some compliance cars for the North American market, primarily California, there with the
Yeah.
RAV4 EV.
Well, and that's how the Toyota leadership was aware that Tesla
Yeah.
was able to make engineering decisions more quickly, because Toyota contracted Tesla to build cars, and they
Yeah.
did. Yeah, so they kind of had the inside knowledge, right?
Cool. Jim, you got anything for Julian?
Well, a couple things. The Hyundai plant in Georgia is now fully closed because of the ice raid, and they don't know if it's going to come back. Is that the only Hyundai plant in the States, or is there another one?
They have a number of facilities in the States, but they all produce different stuff. They're making battery components, they're doing engine and transmission assembly, and they're doing vehicle production in multiple facilities. And the thing is, to run an operation of that scale, you do need a reliable workforce nearby. And it's been a big struggle for many automakers to find enough people close by that are high quality workers that can build the product that you're supposed to be selling to the final consumer. So yeah, that might be a pinch. And I'm sure that there were justified reasons for bringing in foreign workers, but it probably should have been legal foreign workers. Because yeah, having the plant at a standstill is it's bad for the consumer, it's bad for the industry, and it's bad for the manufacturer, and it's bad for the workers. Everybody loses.
And those are primarily trainers there, helping start training the people while the factory is being built. So, yeah, that's really shooting yourself in the foot. But
well, it's one more thing that's going to push manufacturers of all types to move into automation and lights off kind of manufacturing. So now, instead of designing a car that has to be built by a human, we're going to be, manufacturers will design cars that can be built by robots, and the cost will then further drop because they will be more and more and more efficient.
And the American tariff in Japan and South Korea is
yeah, so China's 100 on EVs and battery packs and whatnot, but out of anywhere in Europe, I believe it's 6.1. Unless Carney's done anything recently with Europe, I know he's opened up some trade channels, but I don't know what's what. 100% on Chinese stuff, no charge out of Mexico, 25% out of the US. And that is, I believe that's under what's called the most favored nation tariff, but that might be going down soon with Carney trying to rebuild some trade relations and expand with trade into Europe.
okay.
But it's currently 6.1. Like as of the last time I bought a German-built car, and it was 6.1.
Right.
And that's from Tesla's bringing the Model Ys from now. It's Germany because they're lower tariff from the US.
Right. So we're in a situation where you'll be able to get a Volkswagen or BMW at a better rate than a Ford or a GM, even though they're made partially manufactured here.
Yeah, and better rate than an American Tesla. So it'll be cheaper to get a German Tesla than an American Tesla.
Right.
And Mercedes has manufacturing plants. So does BMW. They have tons in the United States, and they moved over to North America for the tariff exemptions. But that's all. I mean, listen, the Canadian market's not big, right? It's a small market. Southern California consumes more cars every year than all of Canada does. So it's not like they're crying, but it is kind of still a lot of business that they're missing out on. So anyway, we should see a flood of German-built cars coming over to Canada because the tariffs favor that.
Yeah, and maybe once some of the Chinese manufacturers have their factories up in Eastern Europe, maybe we'll see some of those as well.
Or
Well, the
BYD.
Chinese factories, well, here's what's happening with the Chinese factories. It's already kind of started, and I'll tell you why. So Mexico's doing a lot of car building. They have been for a while now. But if you're going to build cars, you're going to need parts, which means the A and B tier, the A and B tier suppliers that are providing parts like wheel bearings and window regulators and door panels and seats and headliners and window glass, all these bits and pieces, they all have to come from somewhere. So you imagine you've got a constant tier of trucks and trains coming into your factory to drop off the stuff 24/7. So it's all getting delivered just in time. Well, some of the Chinese manufacturers, what they've done is they've purchased parts manufacturing groups in Mexico and taken ownership of large businesses in Mexico that are already producing parts for EVs and gas cars that are being produced in Mexico. Like, for example, the GM platform, the Ultium platform that is the Cadillac Lyriq, that's an American-made car. But the Honda Prologue is a Mexican-built car. It's on the same chassis. It's built with the same tools and the same equipment and the same training and the same assembly. It has different emblems on it. It looks a little bit different. It's the same car. So the entire part supply for that vehicle is based in Mexico. But as the Chinese slowly buy up manufacturing facilities that are making these second-tier parts, what happens is they become an integral part of the supply chain for these vehicles that are being produced in Mexico, which are designed, manufactured, and built for distribution in other parts of Mexico. So they're export cars. And the Mexican cars are de-featured. They have less airbags and less sensors and less this and less that. So you've got Mexico with a robust supply chain that's capable of building a lot of high quality cars for shipment into the United States and Canada. And a lot of the components within those cars are technically Chinese by default because the Chinese own quite a large number of the vendors that are selling the parts for these cars. So that the Chinese are not going to show up overnight and start selling cars overnight. It starts with the parts supply, and it starts with the logistics and supply chains and ownership takeovers. And it's a slow way to grow, but it's just the same as what happened when the Japanese entered the North American car market after the gas embargo in the 70s. They were very small. They were in tiny, tiny, tiny numbers. And then you think about Honda through the 80s and 90s, they just grew and grew and grew and grew. And all of a sudden there's Japanese car brands everywhere. So the same thing's going to happen with the Chinese.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Because the Americans won't be able to keep up.
So Canadian parts manufacturers like Magna, I spent 5-6 years in Newmarket, and that town, it's like a company town.
Yes,
they're selling to Ford, GM, Stellantis in the majority sense. But what's to prevent them from creating BYD parts that are sent to Mexico?
They can. There used to be a really complex supply chain that would have parts going back and forth the border many times for the construction of a single vehicle. All that stuff has come to a grinding halt now. But the thing is, when you talk about manufacturing towns and company towns, for example, when GM shut down the Newby plant and sold it to Tesla, who do you think all the Tesla assembly workers became? Well, they were all the workers that lived in close proximity to the Newby plant working for either Honda or Toyota. And so, when a company shuts down a plant, those workers aren't necessarily out of work forever. Somebody else is hopefully going to buy the plant and resurrect it and start producing something new. So I think in general, there's going to be a lot of job loss to autonomy and robotics, but new jobs will open up as a result. So I don't know what's going to happen and how things are going to settle down. It's ultimately up to the leadership of the United States and Canada to decide what the tariff situation looks like. But it hasn't been pleasant for me so far, or the Canadian consumer as of yet. So,
yeah, it's sad. Oh well.
You guys have a lot of tomatoes. I mean, I'm in this situation where the tomatoes, they just keep on coming. You know what I'm saying?
It's the same over here. I've never seen so many.
I know, it's just like so many. Anyway, any other hot topics?
I think that's good for tonight. Yeah, thanks, Julian. We'll,
Yeah, it's a pleasure talking to you
pick this
both.
up.
We should do it again sometime and talk about transporting batteries on ferries and other things like that.
Yeah. We hopefully in the next sort of week or two, we should hear some news from BC Ferries. So,
Sounds amazing. Take it easy. Thanks for
okay.
watching.
All right.
Thanks,
See you
Jim.
guys.